Hi there and welcome to a new tutorial. Today will be the day where I will show you my first tutorial where I will guide you through the whole process. So I will show you from start to finish how I edited this picture, and I would say let's just jump right in after the trailer. Let's go with this edit. I will just start from the beginning, and the beginning is this raw file of the captain, which I photographed some time ago. And you can see how I photographed it just by looking at his eyes, and also of course by looking at the background. You can see I photographed him in front of a gray background, and I used a strip light softbox to get this rim light on the left. And I also used an octabox for the eyes, or rather for the face, to light the face. It was standing a bit on the right, and that's how I achieved this light look. And I will just restore the default. So that was the out of camera image, which I will now adjust a little bit via the raw converter. Let's just increase the exposure a little bit, maybe like plus 0.20. I will also lower the temperature to get a more bluish look. I will brighten the shadows a little bit. And I will add some texture so that we get a little bit more sharpness all over the place. Especially it helps to bring out all the hairs in the beard. I'll also add some clarity, but not too much. And then I will switch to lens corrections and remove the chromatic aberration. Also enable the profile corrections. You can see the lens I use over here. It's the Tamron 28-75 with a f2.8. So I think that should do it for the first adjustments. Let's now open the image. I hold down the shift key while clicking this button. You can see when I hit shift that it changes to open object, and then we will get a smart object. I just hit OK for this one, and now I can go back into the raw adjustments just by clicking on the thumbnail. Just make a double click on the thumbnail, and there you go. You have all the options still available to adjust the image. Okay, now let's mask the captain. We can try to use the new mask tool, which is available in Photoshop 2020. I will just draw a rectangle just around the captain, and Photoshop now should automatically make a selection. As you can see, it's not perfect, but it's close to perfect. We have to make some adjustments, but I will now just add a layer mask by clicking the layer mask button, and then double click the layer mask to get into this properties panel. And I will lower the density of the mask so that I can see the original edges a little bit better. Then I will switch to the brush tool and use a brush with a hardness of something around 80%, a size of 77, and I will increase the flow to 100%, also the opacity, and then I will use white color and just paint along the edge to restore it. I hold down the shift key and just click along the edge, and Photoshop will automatically fill in the areas between the points where you just clicked. And so this way you can quickly restore all the areas that you want to get back. So a little bit more over here, and I will now switch to black color. You can just use X to switch between black and white for the fore and background color, and I will use a really small brush to paint in some areas and to make some more of those hairs visible in this area. Okay, this looks good. This as well. Maybe we have to fill in the hole over here as well. Like this. Just hold down the shift key again and click along the edge. Okay, this looks fine. Maybe we can optimize this area as well by just switching to black again and then painting over this gray area to make all the background invisible. Okay, maybe that's it. This part distracts my eyes a little bit, so I will just switch to black again and then paint over this part to get rid of this, to get a more straight line in the edge. Now I will bring the density back to 100% and check the edge again. The head looks a bit strange, so switch to white again, and then I just draw over those parts to correct that. Okay, now we are almost good to go. There's another little gray part left, but that's it finally. Okay, now let's go on with the background. Let's just use the paint bucket tool, and then I will use a very dark blue background, but first we should add another layer. Bring it below the captain. I will just quickly name this layer Captain, and this one is our background. Just name it BG, and now I'm going to my background color. This is too much purple. I will just color it by hitting the Command and U button on the keyboard, and then we can just change the color by dragging this slider a little bit to the left. Also, I will lower the saturation and also the lightness so that we get a really dark bluish background. Hit OK. That should do it. I will use the crop tool to crop the image a little bit. We don't need all this area above his head, so I will crop it. I hold down the shift key while I do this to stay in the same format. Now I hit enter. There you go. The background is still looks too much like purple to me, so I will drag the slider a little bit more to the left again. Hit OK. And now I will add another layer where I will paint in some light for the background. So we need some light just behind him because I want to add a lens flare just somewhere over his shoulder. And also we can add some more light from the left. I will use this color. And now I also changed the hardness of the brush to 0%, and my brush size is at 1431 pixels now. The flow should be lower, like 20 or 19%. I will increase the brush size a little bit more to over 2000 pixels, and then I start to paint. I will also lower the flow a little bit more to have more control over my result, and I will add in some light like this. And we just added the light by just drawing some color over the background, which was a little bit brighter than the background color. You can also change the blend mode to screen. This will make the color look even brighter. I would say now let's add some rain to the image to give it a little bit more of a stormy and rainy look. I go into my source files and add a water overlay. So if you're interested in these water overlays, you can get them via my Gumroad shop for a few bucks, and it makes it pretty easy to add rain effects to your images. So I put that layer on the very top, and then I changed the blend mode to screen. So you get rid of the black background, so this was normal mode, and just changing it to screen will make the darker parts of this water overlay image invisible. And to simulate a little bit more wind, I will use a filter. I go into filters and then blur, then motion blur. And the settings look good, an angle of -52% and a distance of 34 pixels. And then you get this motion blur look. But I want to make it even more rainy, so I add another overlay, change the blend mode to screen, just duplicate the filter by holding down the Alt key and bring it onto this layer. And there you go. This is the same effect for the other layer now. You can also change it a bit so that it looks not so similar. Maybe we can increase the distance a bit. So now you have the feeling that the captain stands in the rain, but I want to draw in some splashes. I will add another layer for this and call that splashes. And I have a brush tip for that. I will make this brush tip available in the description. You can just download it there for free and use it for your images, but I have to adjust it a little bit. So I will increase the spacing. Also, I will go into the shape dynamics and use the size jitter. You can turn it all the way up to 100%. Also the angle jitter. You can activate flip X and flip Y and the roundness jitter as well. You can go into the transfer settings and go for the opacity jitter. And also the scattering can be turned on as well. Just a little bit, like 88%. That's it. Now I use a white brush and I can start to paint on the edge. My flow should be at 100% and my brush needs to be a little bit smaller. This looks good. And as you can see, while I'm painting, I get all those nice looking splashes on his arm. I'll also paint some splashes over here and just go along the edge with my splashes, and everywhere where I think can be some splashes, I will paint them. So this will make it look a lot more realistic and believable. You really get the feeling that he gets wet while standing there. This looks pretty nice, I guess. I would now just duplicate the splashes layer. Just hold down the Alt key and drag down the layer in the layers panel. This is a bit too much for my taste. I will go to filter and blur it a bit. Go to blur filters and then Gaussian blur. And then I will blur it with a setting of maybe 15 pixels, around 15 pixels. I hit OK. And it looks pretty good. Maybe I will lower the opacity a little bit to 57%. And there you go. Those are our splashes. And this helps the image a lot, I think. Looks a lot better and more believable and a lot cooler as well. I will add another water overlays because I have this one as well with those many drops which look a little bit more blurry. And I will change the color mode to color dodge this time. Hit enter. Now you can see the little blurry drops really look like they are glowing a little bit. I will use the fill to make them a little bit less visible. Maybe 66% looks fine. And we now have a few blurred water drops in the image. Now, one of the most important things is the lens flare as well. Just bring it into the picture via drag and drop, and then change the blend mode to screen, and then you can drag it around. I will place it over here. Maybe make it a little bit smaller. Just hit Command T, and then scale it down a bit. You can of course rotate it as well, and I will place it over here. Now I will add another layer for some glows. Change the color mode to screen. I will pick a color from the background just by holding down the Alt key while I'm in the brush tool. And then I need the general round and soft brush without the shape dynamics. And then I click just a few times over the lens flare, but with a flow of 16% maybe. Then you get this nice glow effect. We can also add some light on this layer where we painted in the light at the beginning. So I will make this part a little bit more bright as well. I switch to white again and make a really bright spot just behind the lens flare. Okay, that's almost it. We can now add a little bit of dodge and burn. I add another layer, and also I create a clipping mask. Let's just make a right click onto the layer and then create clipping mask. I will name that D and B for dodge and burn. And all I do is change the blend mode to soft light this time. And then I can add some dodge and burn to the image. I go for a flow of 8% and just add some white color on some of the wrinkles and also some of the brighter areas to make them even more bright. And this also will give the image more of a wet look. And I will also darken some of the parts that are dark before, so that they become more dark. So you can just enhance the contrast on some of the parts of the image. At the shooting, I already used some water, which I sprayed into the face and onto the jacket of the captain, because it's pretty difficult to get a really realistic wet look just in Photoshop. So make sure or try to keep that in mind when you shoot something like this, that you just use a little bit of water, just some drops of water in his face, and then it will look a lot better later. So I think don't want to use too much time for those dodge and burn things. Just a few parts should be dodged and burned, just to make it look a little bit more interesting. Okay, let's quickly check out the before and after. That's pretty good. I will erase a little bit on this area because this looks strange, I think. What is also cool when it comes to dodge and burn, you can make wrinkles look more deep. So it's just paint over them. As you can see, I paint just over them with black color. They look even more deep, and he looks even more experienced than before. Pretty cool technique. So, and also when it comes to the eyes, use white for the colored part of the eyes, and then use black for the little dark edge on this part of the eyes. That's it. Okay, before and after, pretty cool. And now let's add a color look to finalize the image. This is actually the second to last step in our little editing. I will add a hue saturation layer, change the blend mode to soft light as well, and then hit colorize in the properties panel. And then you can just choose the color that you want, make it a little bit lighter maybe, bring the saturation a little bit more down. And I think that looks pretty cool before and after. Now everything matches a little bit more, everything blends a little bit more. Pretty cool. Maybe I will lower the opacity a bit. The final step is to make a copy of all layers and merge them onto one layer. There's a shortcut for this, which is Command Alt Shift and E, and then you get a copy of all the layers. As you can see, I change it into a smart object, and I go to Filter, Camera Raw Filter, and now I will just enhance the contrast and the sharpness a little bit more. I will bring down the saturation because the color distracts me somehow. Sometimes I will just enhance the texture, also the clarity, maybe a little bit more. I won't use it for the complete image. I will later add a layer mask to just bring the effect onto some parts of the image. Maybe a little bit more sharpening. That's it. Hit OK. Now we have a black and white image. We just have to change the layer mode to luminosity to get back all the colors below. And now I will add a layer mask, and I hold down the Alt key while creating this layer mask, and then we get a black layer mask. And with white we can now make the effect visible on the parts where we want it to be visible. So just around the light it should be nice, and maybe on some parts of the face. And somewhere over here. And that's it. Maybe this a little bit on the head as well. And there you go. That's it. That's my final image. Maybe we could lower the saturation a little bit. It's a little bit too colored in my eyes. Yeah, that's it. Hope you liked my workflow, and you can use it for your own images. And again, if you want to use my water overlays, just check out the video description. There's also a package for the lens flares, and don't forget to download your splashes brush for free. I hope to see you in my next video again, and hit subscribe if you like my videos, and leave a like as well. That will keep me motivated to do some more videos in the future. Bye bye and have a nice day.